Hello. You have arrived at the Convergence Corner, a podcast from Print and Promo Marketing and ASI Media that covers the intersection of the printing and promotional products worlds and spotlights distributors who have found success in both. I'm Brendan Menapace, Content Director for Print and Promo Marketing here at ASI.
And I'm Chris Ruvo, Executive Editor of News and Content Strategy for ASI Media.
And today we're joined by Ikey Bensimhon. Ikey is the CEO of Merch.com, a full-service distributor and service provider that works with customers like Red Bull, Spotify, Uber, T-Mobile, and a lot more brands that you will absolutely recognize. Ikey, thanks so much for being on the show today. Can you give us a little bit of background on who you are and what Merch.com is for those who might not know?
Absolutely. So in 2015, I was an investment banker on Wall Street. And my partner Isaac, who was applying to medical schools, we saw a huge opportunity in the world of reusable bags. We saw a lot of these different tax increases. In New York City, it was 10 cents. In Chicago, it was 8 cents. And we saw a big opportunity making extremely creative bags that are sustainable and just really powerful marketing tools for companies. So Isaac and I started, 2015, doubled year over year, landed some really nice accounts. But we were kind of a supplier in the industry. And there was a whole gamut of issues with that. You have BDAs and DAMCOs coming to you with a project. Who do you work with? So then everything was all beautiful, except for some of these minor issues. And then COVID hit in 2020. We were on fire. And there was a time where, it was frowned upon to bring your own bags to the supermarket.
For sure.
Industry events, trade shows, cruise lines, and our business went from thriving to almost zero. And we had to kind of shift gears. Like many people in the promotional industry, we kind of shifted our gears to PPE and different safety products around COVID, and ended up making that our most powerful year yet. But all that in mind, we realized we really need to kind of diversify and figure out, something a little bit more broader, because we can't allow an issue like this to happen ever again. We spun off Sacatel to a couple of the partners that we had, and we rebranded after we acquired Merch.com. So that's a little bit of a nutshell how we kind of went from like the supplier to spinning off and then building another company in the distributorship world.
And Sacatel, if I'm right, stop me if I'm wrong, that was a Forbes 30 under 30 company, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah, it was. It was actually exactly 2020. Our revenue was really impressive. We landed some really amazing clients. I would say we kind of, reinvented the supplier world of reusable bags. And distributors really heard about us, and we were doing incredible work with them. But it got to a point where it's just like there was no orders coming in 2020. All events stopped, cruise lines stopped, and we had to get a little creative. But yes, you're right. We were Forbes 30 under 30 with Sacatel in 2020.
Wow. So now that you're with Merch.com, can you tell me a bit about the process of getting all these print and promo things together? Was it always both? Did you always do things like packaging and these credentials alongside things like, apparel or drinkware, or did one kind of follow the other? And in addition to this, I know you guys have services like warehousing and kitting. When did those all start at once, or were they slowly phased in?
It was definitely a slow phase. In the beginning, we were getting people asking us for drinkware and, tech products or plants, and we were just rejecting left and right, that type of business, because it wasn't in our deck of cards. We were experts when it came to bags. So we started with reusable bags. I think the Lululemon was the big, light that I saw. I'm like, wow, this is such powerful marketing. People are going to buy $100 yoga pants, and they're just as excited to walk out with that reusable bag. And not only that, if you go to eBay and some of these reseller platforms, people are reselling them for $5, $10 a bag. So I think that once I saw that concept, I was like, okay, we can go and take this to the next level. And we kind of started everything from starting from the initial concept design all the way to production. We did do distribution and fulfillment, but not to the extent that we're doing it now. It was only that one SKU, where now, we're doing onboarding kits, influencer boxes, merch shops, gift sending platforms. So it's not just a reusable bag, it's the box, it's the apparel, it's the stickers, it's the tech product, it's the global fulfillment. So there's a lot more that we're doing now than we did before. Before it was mostly just, manufacturing the product, whether it was overseas or domestic, and then just shipping it to the actual end consumer. There were a couple of accounts that kind of required us to do the full distribution, like the Postmates, the DoorDashes of the world, where, rider kits, they needed to get their poly mailer ASAP, because typically when someone signed up for Postmates, they were signing up for Uber and they were signing up for DoorDash all at the same time. And really the person, the company or the distribution partner who would send it out first, you would see in data that would be the one that they would typically, continue working and doing the most rides for if they received that kit first.
Interesting. I would just ask you one thing there, Ike. You said a lot of interesting stuff, and it really sounds like it's a soup to nuts solution, to use a bit of a cliche that you guys offer. And just why was it important maybe to be able to do that, to take it from concept all the way through to delivery?
I'll tell you, because creativity really brings the client into the door, but then execution will continue them to stay within the company as a client. And if you take a look at some of the Sacatel work, it's really unique, it's really creative. Everything is customized, from the color of the handles to the threading color to the dimensions to the pin. So there was just so many different variances and customization levels that it would be so complicated to be able to pass that off to another supplier who could potentially customize or manufacture those. And then at the same time, it just didn't make too much sense when people were saying, no, we can't customize the PMS of the handle, we can't do the trimming. And it made more sense to be able to put the concept together. And our big thing was making things really congruent in the handle, really custom and creative, and then being able to deliver a product successfully as well. A lot of people can put a really amazing designs, especially now in the age of AI. We didn't have this 10 years ago. In this world, I can go and say, hey, design for me 10 different really creative ideas, incorporate the handle to make it unique, and it'll spit out a bunch of different designs. The problem now is you could do you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? And being able to kind of do all of it was really important for us.
Yeah, we've heard that so many times. And, on that topic of being this, full service provider for your clients, like I said up top, you have a very impressive list of clients. There's no, they're all household names that we all know. When you're working with some of these maybe big name and international companies versus something like a, local store, mom and pop business, is there any special care required or a different process, with these big companies versus the small ones from your perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't typically work so much in the world of local businesses. We kind of focus on the bigger, bucket items and clientele. One thing that, I know we're a lot more tedious about is, making sure that there's no logo infringement issues, reading through MSAs and NDAs. When it comes to local businesses, they're not as, I would say, stringent when it comes to, making sure that the PMS color of the T-shirt, the woven tag, the socks that are coming with it, the header card, that are all cohesive. For us, with the clientele that we work with, if there's a specific PMS 351 red, we got to match it almost perfectly across the whole product line that we're doing. And I know we're more than happy to kind of go through examples, down this interview. But for an example, AMC, we're doing a huge drop for them right now, starting in, I think, 185 of their theaters. And they have a very distinctive red PMS color. And they have whole old school logos in the archives that we had to go through pages upon pages upon pages of different archives. And can we use this logo? Can we not use this? And can these mix and match? And with all of the research and the development and the planning, it's extremely important to be very wary that you're not switching even a minute little detail in their logo. They're spending hundreds of millions, if not sometimes billions, in some of these clientele. Like Amazon spending billions of dollars in marketing every year. You got to make sure that every little nuance of that logo and the branding and the campaign is on point. And we're doing a lot of different testing prior to any type of launch. So we have beta 1, beta 2, beta 3 before we're able to launch a merch shop online or send out a gift sending platform or whatever it might be. Sometimes you rush into things, and sometimes, you're stepping on your own tail. So we want to kind of avoid that and kind of check every box before any type of launch.
Yeah, high degree of granularity. It sounds like really getting down into the gritty, so to speak. Yeah.
100%. And if something goes wrong, you got to go and go back and make sure to change all the mistakes and do it in a way which doesn't hurt the client's image.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's not like a one size fits all solution where every company kind of gets the same thing, but for the most part, when you're working for companies of this size, what are the campaigns look like? What are some of the products they're looking for, the decoration styles, things like that? I heard you say dropped, and I feel like it seems like merch drops are a big deal right now.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say it really varies from client to client and industry and industry. If you're doing a drop for a DJ or an artist or a celebrity or athlete, it's going to look a lot differently than if you're doing a campaign for a global company like Slack or Salesforce, and being able to know exactly the types of products that customers or their employees are going to want. Sometimes it's also customer facing. Sometimes it's both, right? Example, Amazon's asking us to send gifts for Q3 successful numbers that they had to their India, London, UK, US, South America, Canada offices and all their executives, right? They give you a few hundred in each of these offices that kind of meet the criteria. Now you have to think, it's not a one size fits all, right? Depending on the time of the season or the time of the year, if I'm doing crew neck sweatshirts here, am I going to really send crew neck sweatshirts to people in India, right? The weather is different, the style is different. So you have to kind of think of all those different things. Now, if there is an in-hands date of 30 days from now, if you're shipping things overseas, you have to ensure there's custom delays, there's tariff issues now. How do I make sure that people are receiving the product almost at the same exact time, right? Because people are, we're in a global environment. People now can send a message in seconds from across the globe. You don't want someone saying in their development chat for executives, "Hey, did you guys get this box? Like, this is awesome," when a majority of the employees maybe didn't receive it in time. Another thing to think about is, if you're manufacturing or printing stuff and it's happening in a few different countries, right? Sometimes it doesn't make sense to go print all the different products here or manufacturing them all in the US because the cost of shipping is going to be drastic, where sometimes it's more than the cost of the product. Another issue that you have to think about is if you're creating a product, if you're not creating it in the same facility, or even if it's easier, like just saying like, okay, I'm using an AS Color independent hoodie, and then I'm just doing the printing. If the printing is not the same, you're gonna realize that from market to market. So there's a lot of strategies that go into these, I would say, global fulfillment or gifting mindsets, because you got to make sure that these products look very similar to one another, because you don't know when those employees are all going to be under the same roof and they're wearing the same apparel, or they're carrying the same backpack, or they have the same power bank. And you want to make sure that everyone feels equal as well. So those are all things to think about when you're doing big global company fulfillment jobs.
It's really interesting because not only is there not a one size fits all approach from client to client, not only is there not only a one size fits all approach with a client, even within the campaign itself, there's these different target audiences within it that you have to parcel out. And I assume from what you said, build out a network of production partners potentially, right? To help fulfill all that in the right way. Is that part of it as well? Like are you doing local decoration, say in India, wherever it might be, just as an example?
Yeah, so we do, and it goes through a very rigorous process with us. We are actually at an inflection point right now in the company. I can't talk too much about it because we haven't launched, where we're moving from a promotional distributor with some tech-enabled promotional distributor to now becoming more of a software tech platform, right? What we've realized in our industry is it's really easy to acquire customers, but to keep them and to make sure that competitors are not coming and trying to cut off you by, a quarter or a couple dollars, or, beat you on the fulfillment, or whatever. We're doing so many different services, from the concept of ideation and design all the way to warehousing, drop shipping, returns, and tech, right? So we are right now in a process of moving into more of a software approach concept, where customers are going to be able to have everything living on this dashboard, because right now that doesn't really exist.
We wanted to talk, while you're still a distributor, let's talk about one of these cool case studies that you've done. We love to key in here on Convergence Corner on case studies. And is there a cool one that comes to mind that kind of blends print and promo together?
Sure. So I think the AMC one's a really cool one, just to kind of stay on that topic. They're looking to build a whole merch line in all their theaters, as well as now we help them with their online web store as well. It could be more licensed products. It could be nostalgic products. So we helped with everything from building the framework of the physical merch shops in all the theaters. We're going to roll them out slowly. So not only doing the physical framework of the store itself, also all the products. Also, you have to think of the products that people are actually going to want to walk out with in a theater. And at the same time, how do you create products with a very cost-conscious consumer and not take away from sales in their popcorn stand or their concession stand? So it's kind of thinking about that as well. How do you make this tech-enabled where it's cashless potentially? And also for a customer to select, hey, I want to walk out with my poster or my tote bag or my pins now, or do I want to just drop ship it to my house because I'm, after the theater, I'm going shopping and I don't want to carry a shopping bag. So that I think was a really, really impressive launch. It's coming soon. Another one that we've done, we're incorporating a lot of AI into projects as well, and video and experience. So one thing that I think we do extremely well compared to a lot of the other distributors out there is not only are we creating an incredible product, but we're creating an incredible experience around it. An example, I can't say the influencer, but you can probably Google it, where we created an incredible package that's shipped out to, I think, 150 top investors, partners, and then just people on social media that are considered influencers themselves, 100,000 followers to some of them had 100 million followers. Wow. And we created a box that had a video that you opened it up. We customized the box in a really, really creative shape and style that really mimicked and tailored a lot of their different marketing initiatives that they're currently doing. And we basically put a custom video for all the recipients, basically of that person in 10 years from now. Basically, so when you open it,
interesting.
It's me, you, 10 years ago, 10 years later. By the way, X, Y, and Z, kind of talking about the product. I think that you should use this product because X, Y, and Z. And the engagement was just so incredible, because imagine, someone who's getting influencer boxes every day by the dozens to them, by every brand, just to potentially hope that they maybe post it and get some eyeballs on it. Right. But when you see yourself in 10 years and using AI to kind of, put some more wrinkles on you or whatever it might be, and you're like, wow, this is really what I might look at in 10 years. And it's a message to yourself. And wow, that just having that creativity and, thinking about these things, I think that's really what pushes you to the next level.
Boy, did that have to really resonate, because it makes it about the recipient, right? And it's something that hits a fundamental level for everybody, aging and all this. Really, really bright.
It takes that level of personalization in a product, which you think about with kitting, just as simple as a name and photo on it. This is, a next level personalization for the recipient.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's something that you want to keep, right? So they're going to keep that box forever in their office. And
you can compare it to how you actually look in 10 years to see how accurate it is.
Exactly.
So for these programs you're doing, how does print really factor in, especially with the AMC thing? You were talking about the framework of the store itself. Where does print and posters you mentioned too?
Yeah, so it goes in two ways. So a lot of these shops we build on a hybrid model, right? So we build it on inventory based, but then also you have print on demand. So, and what we're doing is we're building a lot of data building into it. So in the beginning, when you're launching a store, we're not sure what's going to be the best size, right? When it's not a one size fits all, when there's t-shirts and hoodies and other things that are involved, you don't want to be stuck with inventory. So what we're building is were building like a supreme concept, and they're really the ones that refined this idea where limited drops are successful. People want to feel like they're limited, whether it's building a woven tag or a hang tag that are numbered 1 to 1,000. And then people are like, oh, I got numbered 999. And then even when they're reselling the product itself, they're able to kind of state that in the description. And it just makes it cool, saying, oh, I got 999. Oh, I also have 998. It'd be cool to also buy that number that's right after. So kind of combining the print and the production together, I think it really gives you the ability to kind of keep your hands on the full process, as opposed to, putting a lot of confidence in other companies, and then they potentially come back and they kind of disappoint you. After COVID, we actually invested in a lot of some of the top machineries, like automated machineries, from screen printing, UV, embroidery, heat stamp, you name it, we had it, right? And we realized over time that sometimes just you actually doing it under your roof is not advantageous to you. It's actually it actually sometimes hurts you in a way, because you're only as big as your heads. You're only as big as your machinery. So sometimes kind of incorporating integrations and connecting, partners that are super good at what they do, as opposed to you trying to do everything yourself, is sometimes a more successful recipe. And what we did with a lot of our machinery is we actually found a partner. We gave it to them. We didn't really sell it to them. And we gave it to them as credits and partnership. And they're experts at what they do. They're local. We've built a delivery system where orders are coming directly to them. It still goes out in our boxes, in our packaging, in our custom tape. All the information and data is still entered into our systems. So everything just seems like it's under our roof, but we're allowing people to do what they do best on the assembly line, and allows us to really focus on what we do best, which is design, manufacturing, and then warehouse and fulfillment.
That's really cool.
And then it's funny, because right when we made this decision to do this, then you saw the 4 imprints and the Vista print and some of those companies also putting press releases. I even think I saw it on ASI, where they're like, we're going to go and outsource a lot of our print production to other companies. And it felt like, we made the right choice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people's natural, inclination is, we're going to do everything ourselves, and, we're going to win that way by doing it all ourselves. Best way to do something is doing it yourself. But it's not necessarily the case, where you can still scale and grow without having to bring all of this in-house. Because I think your point, like you said, like, you're only as big as your heads. So,
and you know what? If you're going to do it yourself, that's fine.
Of course, yeah.
And build a little, an increase in percentage every year over year, that's fine. But if you want to have rapid, swift growth, you've got to be able to put your trust in partners. You've got to be able to just because you have a print partner doesn't mean that you can't go to have a conversation with them, weekly, bi-weekly, quarterly, whatever it might be, and say, hey, these are some new print techniques that I've learned, that I've researched, that I've seen with competitors. How do we figure out a way to do it? And even if there is some, some of these printers, they don't have the cash flow. They don't have the investment, sustenance for them to say, you know what, let me go invest in this. So there's been times where, we laid out the cash, we laid out the investment, we put the connections in, and we were able to leverage, those advancements on technologies, even though they didn't come up with the idea. So it doesn't mean that you can't be proactive and still give them an idea, even if it's not happening under your roof.
That's really great stuff. So kind of to wrap things up, with all these big projects going on, have you run, we'll use the AMC one as the example. Did you run in any hurdles while you were working on this campaign? And, if so, how did you kind of navigate that?
Oh, if you're not running into hurdles, then you're not doing something right. It's just, it's
you're not going big enough, right? Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it first started with creating some really incredible products, and then thinking, oh wow, it actually doesn't fit on the retail displays, or no one's going to walk out with this, or for us to start this in 150 theaters, it's over the budget that we put in the beginning, or do we start off with only 5 print SKUs, or do we start with 15, 20 to relate to more people. So there's always hurdles, and I don't think there's a perfect model. I think sometimes you just have to test it, and then very quickly be able to shift gears if it doesn't work. You have to be agile. You can't. Also, we saw this in COVID with a lot of these big companies. Sometimes when your ship is so large, and I don't mean ship by the amount of sales that you do, I mean by the infrastructure that you have in place, and not being able to make quick changes and being nimble can hurt you. So I think it's about being nimble. It's about being communicative with the client. It's about being just honest with them. Hey, we have an issue here. What do you think we should do? A lot of times I'm seeing people are trying to cover up and try to, you know what, like maybe we can wait a little longer and maybe this won't be such an issue in a couple of days from now. Another great example was these tariffs in China, you know, or global. A lot of distributors, suppliers, whatever you call it, you know, some of the suppliers that we're using under the ASI, PPAI umbrella, you know, they waited so long to let us know. But I think the people who are the most successful were the people who are right away, even if you didn't have concrete information, but you just communicate with your client. This is what we're dealing with. We don't have information. And I just wanted to let you know. And as soon as we have anything, you're going to be the first one to know.
It builds trust. It
builds trust. Exactly.
Yeah.
People appreciate that, you know. And I think that if you're honest with your customers and, you know, you're proactive with them, it will only benefit you in the future.
Well, Ikey, awesome stuff. This has been super helpful for, I'm sure, for distributors who are looking to scale, maybe grow their book of clients. Chris, do you have anything you want to add that we haven't asked about?
Yeah. I'll just add this, like some final thoughts. It's tough to build on things like he said because I think he said it so well. But I think somebody listening to this might have a small mom and pop business and say, well, how is this applicable to me? I think if you extrapolate out and you look at what Ikey's talking about in principle about just, I think you can apply that to any business in the print and promo realm. And I'd invite folks to do so because I think there's a lot of good information there about how to approach each client, how to approach scaling, how to just think about these things globally. When by globally, I don't mean across the globe, but just how you would think about orchestrating these types of campaigns. So just great stuff, Ikey. And thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate being on here. It was awesome.
Well, Ikey, again, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your insight here. Once again, for Convergence Corner, I am Brendan Menapace, and thanks everyone for listening.